Welcome back, everyone. Let me start this episode by saying that you need to take on full responsibility for your life. And why is that? Well, when you think about it, by taking full responsibility for everything, well, you finally gain back control and you gain back some power because you have the ability to control your perspective towards what's happening in your life. Okay, you can change the way you perceive things, mistakes, consequences, and failures, everything pretty much. Your perspective is the key.
100%.
Now, you won't just be a feather in the wind. Okay, so let me take it back a notch and apply this concept to mistakes pretty much. That's why today's episode is about mistakes and consequences. Because you need to understand that the goal is not perfection, it's evolution, it's growth, it's to progress. So that's why you can actually understand as well. Jake talked about it in the other podcast, but mistakes are a mirror of your own flaws. You have the answer straight under your nose.
Yeah.
So I really like the concept that you brought in the other episode because
With the one with judgment, right?
yeah, exactly, because I was thinking about the subject of today's episode, mistakes and consequences, and I realized that it's directly correlated to the mirror effect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because if you make mistakes, it only means that there's something missing. It's a flaw that you need to work on. You need to be courageous and to face it head on.
100%.
You need to do the work towards it to get better. So I really liked it because it's sometimes you're just lost, but now you have the answer. That's what I'm trying to say, is that you have the answer, you know what to work on, you know where to go towards your journey to success.
100%. I mean, it's a funny concept, man. It really is something brand new, I think, that people aren't used to, use in their life, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly what happened with the podcast with judgment. We weren't about to talk about the good side of judgment when we start the podcast.
Yeah.
But in the contrary, I kind of find a way where you can use judgment or mistakes or stress to actually implement things in your life to grow from.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you bring up the mirror effect, right?
Yeah.
If you judge someone else with the mirror effect, it's because you see mistakes of your own.
Yeah.
They are flaws, and those, they are consequences of things that you made in your life, and they could be also error that you do for yourself.
Yeah.
And those things, they are actually, your own. They are things that you can change for yourself. And therefore, if you're actually conscious of the moments that you're judging someone else, or conscious also of consequences or error that you do on a daily basis or weekly or whatever, then with your perception and by being conscious, you can choose to change yourself towards growth.
Yeah.
And that's the most beautiful part about
Absolutely.
judgment.
And that's why we often talk about getting rid of your comfort zone, trying to get uncomfortable. Because to be honest with you, when you face your flaws or your mistakes or the consequences to your own action, then it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You need to be courageous, because if you're not, then it's only going to lead to inaction.
Exactly.
You won't basically do anything about it, because doing that mistake again and again and again is more comfortable than actually facing your own
100%.
insecurities or own mistakes,
I mean, you're already used to facing
the mistake,
the comfort and the mistake, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the problem. I mean, if you won't grow from just staying at the same place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the reasons why but I often see on, let's say, Instagram, people that say you need to get out of your own country and go travel, etc. Right? It's because you learn so much about yourself.
Yeah.
And while you travel, you do mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's where you're gonna actually learn more about yourself. And if you just stay at home in your comfort of your own house, right?
Yeah.
Because you're used to those things. And I mean, it's the perfect way to learn about yourself.
Absolutely.
It really is.
And we were talking before starting this podcast, and you said something interesting. The fact that we humans are still alive pretty much today, and all the technological evolution or pretty much everything that we have in our society today is because there were mistakes that were made.
Absolutely.
And we learn from them, because often what I read in my books is, you know, the big technological advancement. Or for example, you know, I don't remember his name, but the guy who created airplanes. Pretty sure he messed up 100 times, you know.
100%.
Or even there was the example against Ford, you know, the company Ford for the vehicles. Well, he said he was one of the first to create automobiles in that era, and no one heard about it. You know, no one knew how to do that, how to create an engine.
Yeah.
But they, after mistakes and mistakes and mistakes and mistakes, I think it took like 1,000 tries, and they finally made one. It was one of the biggest technological advancements that we had in our society.
Yeah.
So the mistakes, you can actually use them, but you need to seek that feedback from yourself, and pretty much to get rid of your ego, to get rid of your comfort zone, to get rid as well of your self-image that you hold up upon yourself.
Yeah.
Because if like we said before, if you aim for perfection, then there's no evolution, because you expect all your actions to be perfect, and in your head you are saying to yourself that you cannot evolve because you're already perfect. And it comes back to the principle of perfection and fragility that you brought up upon my perspective as well.
I mean, it's another strange analogy, right?
Yeah.
It's a more like a paradox.
Yeah, but it's you need to really think about it to understand it, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. But that's what I love about fragility and perfection, because in reality, like I said, fragility is the key thing that makes you understand why things are important in your life.
Yeah.
And therefore, I mean, every consequences or flaw or error that you make, those things are fragile. They are things that happened inside of your life because of mistakes that you made, and they are state where you can learn from.
Yeah.
And because of that, they are important inside of your life, because you can grow from it. And that is truly what is special about it, because like you said, perfection is something that is unchangeable.
Yeah.
It's like what I told you about with judgment, right? If you're judging someone else, well, it's because there's a feeling of superiority.
Yeah.
And therefore you think that you are actually, more perfect than this individual.
Yeah.
So you do not think about your flaws, or what scares you inside of yourself, so you can grow. With judgment, the bad form of judgment, you think that this person is under you, therefore you think you're perfect. So you don't want to change those things, and you need actually to focus on the flaw that you're putting on the other person.
And
it's the same thing with consequences.
Yeah. And I thought about it, like while you were talking.
Yeah.
I said before that you need a strong why to achieve your goals. You know, you need to have your dreams and your goals. But I thought about it with the concept of perfection and fragility. And it means that if your goal, you're not, you want to reach it. You really deeply want to reach it. It's a big goal, so you don't have the certainty. So that goal is fragile. So that means that you will be more willing to put on the actions because 100%. It's something that is fragile.
I mean, you're completely right. And I'll add something actually.
Yeah.
If I bring I don't know the word in English, metaphor.
Metaphorical.
I guess
we'll put it on the screen or something.
Well, this word, if you think about the $300,000 cars, right?
Yeah.
One of the reasons why a $300 car is worth like a lot, and it's because it's fragile, right?
Yeah.
Because it's rare, it costs a lot, and it can break with time.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the dream.
Yeah.
Because a dream is a thing that, you're not sure you can actually reach as an individual, and therefore, people don't want to put actions towards it.
Yeah.
And that's why we think that dreams are super important.
Yeah.
And that brings up actually, Stoicism.
Yeah.
Stoicism thinks that, dream is not the end goal. It's not the end goal. It's about,
the journey.
The journey, exactly. And that's how we see it actually, because it truly is the way that it should be seen.
Yeah.
Because in reality, the dream is important because of their journey in general.
Yeah. It's
if you achieve the dream in 2 days, it's not gonna be worth a lot.
no, exactly. And it's all the memories. Like pretty much,
Yeah.
you can just take it back just to your personal life. Sometimes the best memories is when you were actually trying to achieve something.
I mean, yeah.
You know, I was when I was younger, I was playing soccer, you know, or football, whatever you call it in your in where you live, but. And all the times I was practicing, you know, training, having fun with the team and everything, all the goals, the assists, everything. That's what I remember. You know, the whole journey. Not, you know, maybe I haven't, I'm not a professional or something, but it's all those memories that you remember and that you're happy about.
100%.
It's when you were in that moment, when you were struggling, you know.
Exactly.
The biggest struggle is when you're done with that struggle and you actually evolve from it. Well, you're glad it happened and you're happy about it.
And that's again, if we want to put the in correlation with consequences and mistakes.
Yeah.
The only reason you could evolve from it is because you weren't perfect about it.
Yeah.
You weren't perfect. You weren't Messi at the beginning when you start playing soccer, or Ronaldo, or whatever, who's the greatest players of all time right now.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why you had fun. Well, during the journey, it's because you weren't perfect at all at the beginning, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
And
it's
that's
the pinnacle of growth.
Yeah, and that's why again and again and again we need to say this, but the comfort zone is what is going to kill you. Absolutely. All your progress, all your evolution as a human being, if you stay in your comfort zone, it's done.
I
pretty
mean,
much.
imagine if society in general, or the earth, was already perfect to begin with.
We would not evolve at all.
I mean, not only that, but there wouldn't be a reason to live.
Nobody would care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because everything wouldn't need to change.
Absolutely.
And humans would not actually need to be curious about things, because everything would be already perfect.
Yeah.
So why would you want to be perfect in general?
Yeah.
You wouldn't have something to grow from. And I think it's one of the reasons why often, well, there's going to be people that are, let's say, multi-millionaire, and they feel like life is getting boring for them.
Yeah.
It's because they have a lot, they've achieved a lot, and therefore they think that most of what they've done inside of their life is already perfect, because they have everything.
Yeah.
So you take out a part of your life that used to be really important for yourself, because it was more about mistake and learning and, well, the process of it. And like I said in the beginning, it's exactly what we've talked about. It's the journey, it's the process.
Yeah.
And once he actually went for the end goal, he didn't have nothing to work on for himself, and he went into the comfort zone again.
Yeah, and that's something that I can relate on in my personal life, because I've been trading for a bit now, you know, for a couple of years. And it's just by starting, you know, we started this journey of working on ourselves really intensively, like for me, pretty much about a year ago, I would say. Like I've really started to focus on all my flaws. And recently I've came to the conclusion that the fact I've seen so much progress in a short amount of time compared to those years, it's because I've started to implement like the mistakes perspective, you know, and when I make a mistake, I'm almost happy. I'm like, good, I can learn something from it. And I made a rule against myself, because even though I knew it, there's a difference between knowing the concept and actually implementing it. That's another, like, when you understand, like, we talk about a lot of subject on this podcast, but it's a thing to understand what we say. You know, you can listen to it and be like, yeah, good, okay, I'll learn from my mistakes, but you actually need to implement it.
Yeah, walk the talk.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I've started doing. I'm like, when I make a mistake, I'm not leaving my office until I understand it. I'm gonna work it out no matter what. There's no leaving that place, because I know once I leave it behind, there's more chance that I never come back to it, because again, it's comfort zone. You're trying to protect yourself from it. But when you actually face it head on, it can be pretty hard, man. Why did I do that? What emotions was I trying to avoid? On what emotions was I acting? You know, all those questions deeply, and it comes back a lot to your childhood, because that's where traumas happen, and that's where you get programmed. So it can be pretty a deep journey, but you need to do it.
Yeah.
You need to do it if you want to progress.
100%. I mean, if there's a tips that I could give you guys about learning about yourself and being conscious, right? It's every time that you actually do something like a mistake or consequences, right?
To your own actions.
Well, every time that you do one of those two, or even think about paradox.
Yeah.
Because I think nowadays our society is really like they have a binary solution to everything.
Yeah.
So it's either good or bad.
Yeah.
And I guess no, it's not fine, but whatever. You should think more about the problem for yourself.
Yep.
And every time that you think about a paradox or something, well, that is either good or bad, well, write it down.
Yep.
Take your journal or like your pocket journal, right?
Yep.
And you write it down. And therefore, every time that you find a new subject that you're actually like, okay, I think I can learn from this specific mistake or consequences or this paradox. Well, if you write it down, one day you'll be able to, well, kind of wired your brain to be conscious about it.
Yeah.
Without even needing to write it down.
Yeah.
And by doing it like really, really, really freaking often, at some point you'll be able to actually just answer your own thought process super quick.
Yep.
And I think it becomes such a beautiful tool.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
to grow so exponentially.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've done it yourself.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's the greatest year like of your life right now.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you're growing so much.
Yeah, I've seen so much progress, and what you just said like resonated so much because you need to understand that what you aim at determines what you see.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you progress on yourself. You learn all those new things, so your perspective gets wider and wider and wider, and you can attack your problems.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna be easy because you now have the knowledge and the capacity to resolve that problem pretty much.
Yeah.
And when you write it down, that's another important aspect because we talked about it. I don't know in what episode. I think it was dream doping, but the mind, is super fast to forget. That's it's pretty much because of the comfort zone. You make that mistakes or you get consequences to your actions, and you'd rather forget and get inside your own bubble of protection, so you don't have to face it. But when you write it down, you write like the mistake or the consequences of your actions that happened. Well, you will have to face it. You need to deconstruct it and to understand it. You need to work it out.
Yeah,
you can't
100%.
just let it and just life goes on. It's not like that you're gonna evolve. You need to take actions in everything, in anything that you want to achieve. If you want to get better, then there's gonna be actions that are gonna derive from that.
Yeah, and those actions can also lead to mistakes and consequences.
And that's good. That's fine.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you adopt a mindset that is going to help you regardless of anything that happens? That's what I'm talking about by saying you need to be your biggest ally.
Yeah.
You need to reframe your perspective against everything, so it's going to help you no matter what. Why would you self-sabotage yourself?
I mean, it's simply because it's scary.
Exactly. It's
people don't want to put themselves in this state of
uncomfortable. Yeah, exactly. But that's what is mind-blowing to me. Like, you can actually have control over your perspective over anything. So why wouldn't you do it? You will feel a lot better because you can see opportunities in everything that happens in your life. If you just reframe your perspective towards it, you will have much more control over your thoughts, over your emotions, over your progress, even over your life, basically, because you change your perspective towards the problem. So why wouldn't you do it? That's that's one of the biggest questions, but it comes back, I believe, to the comfort zone, because that's a courageous act to be honest with yourself and to see the truth, even when the truth hurts, because that's basically the problem. Humiliating?
I guess.
Humility? You need humility?
I guess, yeah.
Like it's... Yeah, I think it's humiliating. Yeah, humiliating.
Humiliating, I guess.
Yeah.
It's...
That's why I talked about self-image before too.
Yeah.
Because...
You need to put it aside to learn
Yeah,
yourself.
step it aside, step on your ego, you don't really need that to evolve.
Well, I mean,
It's not gonna help you.
it's kind of like also because ego is equal to perfection in some type of way.
Yeah, because you believe you have no flaws and you're perfect, so
Exactly,
you
yeah.
don't have anything to change, and you stay in your own bubble
Yeah,
wrap pretty
exactly.
much.
I was like that before, actually.
Yeah, me too. Me as well.
I mean, when I was younger, with all type of actually scenarios, but mainly with hockey. I used to play hockey for
Yeah.
12 years.
Really, I didn't know that actually.
And yeah, I played for 12 years and I was the defense and I fucking loved that game.
Yeah.
Hockey was awesome. I mean, I'm Canadian, so hockey is a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, I had this big idea that I played like at my fullest every time that I was actually playing, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, my coach would put me, in the game
Often.
yeah, as most as they could.
Yeah.
And because of that, I was only happy about, playing the game.
Yeah.
And I never thought about, actually learning to be better
Yeah.
from what I was actually just doing, because I was already like on the game every time.
Yeah.
And I wasn't benching. If I was benching and I made some mistakes, I would be more prone to actually want to learn to be better with hockey, right?
It's pain.
Yeah, exactly.
The pain you want to make changes because you feel pain pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. But instead, I don't know, I was just in my cocoon playing for fun, and I'm probably sure it's one of the reasons why, I never got better or never got higher in the degree of hockey, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that kind of applies in everything.
Absolutely.
It's not only with sports, it's with life, it's with everything. It's lessons, it's in school, it's everywhere.
Because I can talk personally about my soccer journey, for
Yeah.
example, because I've had completely the different aspect of it. Me, it was just relentless work and relentless effort. That's why I learned, pretty much my discipline. When I started playing, I was 4 years old basically, and I wasn't good at all. I was scoring my own goal, but I was 4 years old, But when I grew up a little bit, like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, I was scoring 6 goals a game, but I was playing in my local league, And then I went into a more competitive league. I was trash. It was the worst. Then I got a little bit better because I wanted, to prove myself, like I can be good. So I worked on myself, and I got better and better. And then I worked my way up to the best league, And that's just by pain. I didn't want to be the worst, so I went in the morning. I was playing on the dinner. I was playing at night. I was playing. I was having my practices with the team. I was trying to learn. I was watching YouTube videos. Pretty much, I was trying to get so good at it, and it worked.
Yeah.
By relentless work, and it was painful because I didn't want to be a loser. Not that but we were losing every game. And after that, I went into a winning team because I got better and I had the talent to make it to that best team in the league. We're winning 7-0 every game. It was so fun. That was one of the best, in my teenage years, that was awesome. Winning 7-0 without putting any effort to destroy the other teams, man, it was awesome. We were so good. And that's why the story, it was painful for a few years, but eventually it got better because I worked my ass off to get better. It's pretty much like a movie, a superhero movie. It's painful for the whole movie, and at the end,
he wins.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much the same thing for life. If you seek the pain or the discomfort, then you will actually learn. So your mistakes are not truly mistakes, and the consequences to your actions, you can reframe your perspective towards them and grow.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a mirror of your own flaws, so why not just take actions around them and become better?
100%.
Like, why wouldn't you want to take actions to be better? Like, that's something in my mind that I don't understand. Like, you have the opportunity, it's right under your nose, you know what you need to work on.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's going to be just one little thing that I want to add up. It's about the paradox, right?
Yep.
like we talked about, I think it's in society a reason why we think that consequences and error are a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's like you said, when we were younger, it's one of the moments where you learn a lot about life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you basically, well, judge a lot
Yep.
to understand what
is
you
good.
need to implement
Yep.
in your life, right?
Yep.
And when we are younger, well, if, I don't know, I have a Sharpie and I write down on the wall, my dad is going to be pissed at me, right? So basically, he's
Yeah.
going to take me, put me in the stairs
Yeah.
and just
Sit down.
yeah, sit down, look at the corner, and
Yeah.
like shut the fuck up and whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because you did something wrong.
Yep.
And that was called consequences when
Yeah.
we were younger, right?
Yep.
And I think because of that, one of the only thing that we've thought about consequences is mistakes and things that are negative.
Yep.
And what is negative inside of our own life is especially what human beings, I think negative thoughts
Yep.
are one of the things that the human like remember the most inside of their own life.
Yeah, because that's how we're programmed.
Exactly,
When we're
yeah.
younger.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the reasons why paradox exists also, because we learn from specific scenarios that there's not going to be another answer.
Yeah.
When actually paradox are in other, well, it's a flip on the coin.
Yep.
Like completely, like what I
Absolutely.
did with judgment.
Yep.
And consequences is the same. You can either see the consequences as something negative or something positive.
Yep.
But if you only see the negative part, you can't learn from it.
Nope.
And that was one of my argument about, well, failing at something.
Yep.
If the only right way to fail at something if you're not learning from it.
Yep.
Like definitely is the only way to fail at something.
Yeah, a failure is if you stop trying to progress.
Exactly.
Pretty much, the mistake is only going to be a mistake if you don't take actions
100%,
towards it to
yeah.
grow from it.
Mhm.
But something that I want to add on, because you said, that you were talking about the paradox of consequences, that we only see the bad consequences, and it pretty much comes back to, when we talked about it in another episode, but you just don't evolve from your childhood, because that's how you learn, and you have the same thought pattern as when you were a child. But when you reframe that perspective toward consequences, like you said, you can actually see the good in it. That's what we meant by taking control back over your life.
Yeah.
Because it's not science. It's no science, but why wouldn't you take that perspective if you want to actually get your life in order, get your life on track? Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I just want to get better. Like, even I'm just going to change my perspective towards it and grow from it. Like,
Well, I mean, you need to, like you talk about perspective. Every time that you fail at something, you do every time you take action, there's going to be consequences, good
Yeah.
or bad.
yeah.
Every time that it's bad, then you're failing at something. Every time you fail at something, then you learn from it.
Yeah.
If you're not able to see the way that you could learn from it, then you're
that's-
actually failing.
Yeah.
But it's the same with everything. You need
Yep.
to change your own perspective for everything. Like
Yeah.
truly. And that's, I think, the true way of thinking for yourself
Yeah.
and making yourself grow.
Yeah.
True
Pretty
life.
much. I think
Yeah.
that's a wrap, to be honest. I think we've talked a lot about it. And let me just add before we cut this video, because we always forgot to do it all the time,
Yeah,
but
don't
just,
forget, yeah.
if you had anything to add on in the comments, please leave your thoughts below. We want to learn from you guys as well. If you have new
100%.
knowledge that we can implement as well, leave a like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks again.
Yeah, in the next one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.